The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Ambar Garcia, Bryan Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Break, live from SWBC. And we are here presented by LG OLED Evo, the best TV in the game. And right now I'm here with Bryan and Nick. Derek is going to join us in a little bit, but he'll be back to join us here today.
Exciting.
Yes.
If you guys were watching last week, you may have heard that me and Ambar were in the middle of a trade negotiation. She did not end up accepting that trade. Had she accepted that trade, she would have won her fantasy matchup. That's all I'm saying.
What's wild is that I lost by 4 points.
You did.
So yeah, sure, you're right. But I battled in that game. I battled.
Somebody won this week.
Good for you. It's just Kyle's team sucked.
Sometimes the trades you don't make
Yeah.
are the best trades.
Or the ones you think about for the rest of time.
Yeah. There's I remember one time there was a player here, and he might listen because I think he still might be local. There's a guy named James Whalen. He was a tight end here. And I called the Cincinnati. We were trying to move him, and I called the Cincinnati Bengals, and they're like, "Hey, I go, would you be interested in James Whalen?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'd like to kind of move T.J. Houshmandzadeh, who was a wide receiver, kind of played well for the Bengals." And so I'm like,
He was on my flight back from Mobile last year. He lives in Dallas too.
Does he live in Dallas? He might be listening as well. But the thing about it was, it's funny because Jim Lippincott, who was the director of player personnel for the Bengals, I'm like, I was too anxious. I was too anxious on the trade. Like when he said, "Hey, would you take T.J. Houshmandzadeh?" I said, "Jim, you want to hand in the papers or you want me to?" And I did it without even talking to Steven and Jerry. They just gave me the go-ahead to make a trade. And I learned that day I was too anxious because T.J. Houshmandzadeh turned out to be a pretty good football player after that. But I was too... Like, I saw how Ambar was slow playing the other day.
Yep.
And I was thinking, Ambar's doing this the right way. Because if it was me, I would have immediately taken the trade and
I went through a roller coaster of emotion. Initially, I'm like, oh, hold on, let me look at this. And then I started, I looked at your trade proposal and I was like, okay, I'll take it. But then I took a step back. I'm like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking more. So it's just like one of those things that, I got to stop. I'm okay with my decision, by the way. But I could never do that actual job, what they do there, because it's just, you just get too in your head and thinking of every outcome. You're like, oh my God, am I doing this right? Am I not? Do I take this gamble? Do I not? Are you screwing me over? Are you not?
That's what happened.
What am I not seeing?
See, that's what happened. That's what happened at Cincinnati. Because when I told Lippincott that, I go, "Do you want me to hand in the papers or do you want to do it?" And he goes, "Well, hey, let me think about this for a second. Let me think, and I'll get back to you." Mm-hmm. He called the next day and said, "Nah, we're not going to do it, but thank you." You know.
So Houshmandzadeh could have been here?
T.J. Houshmandzadeh could have been here. I had him
wild.
traded for James Whalen, who was a tight end. I have a backup tight end, would have been like a third tight end for this crew right here. And yeah, but they said, the Joneses said, "Hey, let's see if we could get something for James Whalen." And so I got on the phone and started calling people. And Cincinnati's the one team you never call because they don't do anything. They have a history of not, like, I call up to, I used to call up with Jim was there, Jim Lippincott, and then also Duke Tobin took it over, running the personnel department. And I would like, "Hey, Duke, it's Bryan in Dallas. Hey, Bryan, how's it going?" "Great. Just calling to make sure everything's good with you." "Yeah, everything's fine. Thanks for calling. Okay, take care." And I wouldn't talk to him until the next year because you knew that, there were some teams that were super aggressive with the way they traded. And you could kind of like guy Les Snead. When Les Snead he's now with the Rams. Les Snead's famously the F those picks guy. He's got the T-shirt at the Super Bowl where F them picks. He was a guy that he didn't care. He would trade. You could get on him on the phone. Like you'd make a trade. He's like, "Who else you got? Got anybody else?" And you're like, Yeah, I think we're good here, Les. Let's I'll call you back. But you do think about
Could not be me.
You do think about it when you're on the phone. When you're making deals, because when you wonder, gosh, is that guy going to go on? See, I'm not going to lie. I looked up and saw what Phillips did the other day for Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And just you want to take a guess how he played in that game the other day for Buffalo against the Indianapolis Colts?
I honestly could not even guess.
2 tackles, 1 pressure.
Yeah. Or he played how many snaps?
He played. It was over 20 snaps, like 25 snaps.
Yeah, it's not bad.
See, so that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you make trades and it works out, and then you trade a guy away, and then the next thing you know, he's playing great for them.
Sometimes you never know. Next year we might be sitting here and you're like, man, I was so wrong about that Jonathan Mingo guy. They actually got this one right.
Well, yeah,
you never know.
You never know. But see, that's the thing with Ward. The corner for San Francisco. They traded Travis Ward when Travaris Ward when they and I remember, Amber, were you with us? We were playing a preseason game in Houston. And it was the last preseason game, and we pull him out of the lineup. We see him get pulled out of the lineup because he's going to get traded. So he's giving everybody a hug on the sidelines. Hey, goodbye. Trade for a guard from Kansas City that never played a down here. And he goes on and has just an incredible career with Kansas City and now with the San Francisco 49ers. And sometimes you just hang your head when things like that happen. That you make a deal. So, sorry, that was trade talk there for about 7 minutes.
That was good. Yeah, that was a good story.
Okay. Well, the funny thing is, those trades actually matter. What we're doing on this fantasy, it's just
it matters.
Literally but we literally
it mattered
we
to him.
can't bet. We don't do
it mattered a
anything.
lot more to me.
He's mad right now
because you're a draft guy too, and you're into that. I'm more like, I don't know. I'm just like, nah, I'm not giving you my quarterback.
By the way, look, 7 guys already.
Oh, let's go. Right here. We're starting.
We're on the run.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the latest news. And this is something we have already been hearing about when it comes to Dak and his situation. It turns out that it has been confirmed that he will be undergoing the surgery. And that's gonna put him out for the rest of the season. He's gonna be moved to IR. My question here for you guys: one, I've seen people getting really upset about this and just panicking and everything, and what this could potentially mean for the future. Obviously, we don't know until we get there. But does this surgery and being out for the rest of the season, will it mentally affect him next year, as far as this happened right on the day? They claim it wasn't that specific play of him running, but mentally, from a guy that we've been asking to run, and that's something that was missing in his game, do you think this will or could affect him in the future in how he becomes operates as the quarterback?
I think it's something that definitely have to ask whenever he's done with his recovery, because the mental aspect of it doesn't really kick in until you're on your back for 6 weeks, and you can't walk for 6 weeks or however long it's going to be for Dak. I think for him though, this is his 4th surgery that he's going to go through as a member of the Cowboys. He had that dislocated ankle, and coming back from that, I think that was more of a mental challenge than anything. He's had surgery on his shoulder. He's had surgery on his right thumb. Now he's going to have surgery on this hamstring. So he's been through this before, and the ankle was obviously a lot worse. And I think I would assume it would be a lot worse mentally. But I think that's something that we look up after this 4-month recovery for Dak, which should have him ready to go by OTAs. I think whenever he comes around to OTAs, that's probably the question that you ask is okay, how does this affect your running style going forward? Because we already did see a little bit of a dip there coming into this season, and you factor in the him being in a boot in Cancun before training camp, and is he dealing with some tendonitis in that ankle as a result of the injury? Is that a reason why his rush attempts have decreased over the course of this season? And then with the one game that he gets back into scramble mode, he tears his hamstring. So I think that's certainly a mental challenge that you would have to ask of him at that point. But I think that's probably something that he'll have to go through and experience over the course of these next 4 months, and then come to a conclusion at the end of it for how these next 4 years will go from a rushing perspective.
To me, there's concern, and there's concern in this way, because we saw a guy that doesn't have the mobility that he once had. His ability to move, and we've seen him in the pocket been able to kind of navigate things and kind of buy some time, when he can. We were asking for him to run. Hey, those injuries happen, but you're already seeing a guy that doesn't look really as flexible as he once did. Now are you going into that even more? Are you dipping into that part of his game where are you taking that away? Him and Britt Brown will work really hard to rehab and get back. He'll try and keep his weight down. He'll do everything he can to kind of defeat Father Time, which will be difficult. But these injuries start adding up. And especially when you start to talk about lower body injuries, hamstrings, ankles. If he doesn't have a lot of flexibility in his ankle, because he's dealing with a lot of that stuff, that was a pretty horrific injury that he suffered. And he's fought back. He's battled through things, and he's always going to battle through things. But how many can you take before it starts to show with your play? I remember way back in the day when Dan Marino tore his hamstring, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play. Tore his Achilles. And he just couldn't move anymore. And then he was kind of a sitting duck in the pocket, and he just couldn't buy himself another chance to throw the ball, or a second chance, the mobility. He couldn't do that. And you just kind of wonder with Dak, is this going to be one of those things that we've kind of seen him not have a lot of flexibility, a lot of mobility, to be able to navigate stuff. And so that's my concern right there. I think they'll say, hey, well, it's as good as new. Well, it's not as good as new. He's dealing with a lot of things physically that he to his credit, he plays through, and like I say, when they tell you that, oh, the walking boot's nothing, don't worry about it, nothing to see here. There's something to see here.
Yeah.
This is not just, hey, the walking boot looks very stylish. I'm a jump man, Nike guy, Nike jump boot, whatever. That's the thing in Mexico these days. I've heard. You don't want to be on a fishing boat all day with a boot on. Trust me, I've been on a fishing boat all day. You don't. So it's tough. These things are tough, and they start to add up. And you're not. There's some guys that are able to kind of overcome these things, and others it's a lot harder. He works so hard as is to get ready. Now, it's going to be even more for him to get back and get the mobility that he had.
Well, big question mark for the future. I'm sure we'll be discussing it later on again. But in the meantime, as far as the current quarterbacks right now, Jerry Jones did mention they're sticking with Cooper Rush to be the starter and planning on throwing in some packages with Trey Lance. I haven't seen it confirmed by us here in the building, but I've been hearing with the move, Will Grier.
Yeah, the name that I've heard on outside the building, at 105.3 The Fan, just talking to some people, that Will Grier was going to step back into the role of being on the practice squad, and then being able to elevate if they need him. But familiarity with Will Grier, everybody likes Will Grier. He'll fit in just fine doing what they need to do. He's the most important thing is that Will Grier will know his role and what he has to do, and so that's a positive. If you have to make one of these moves with 8 weeks left in the season, Will Grier, you could do far worse than Will Grier out there.
Familiarity with Will Grier, and then also Will Grier's familiarity with how to run scout team, because that's going to obviously become a lot more important over these next few weeks. But yeah, him added to the practice squad. Expect that to happen sometime this week.
I remember it was a very emotional departure. Were you
that
here
was
with
after
us?
I was there for that. Yeah,
Trey Lance deal.
It was right after they had traded for Trey Lance, and they basically told Will, like, "Hey, so this is your last audition. Go have fun." And he certainly did the thing. He threw for over 300 yards in that game. It was the only preseason game they won that year, and then he cried in the press conference after.
So does that final look that we got from him at that moment, does that incite any will to see more of Will, see more of him in this next few weeks?
I'll tell you what, he's a gunslinger.
He is a gunslinger. There's no doubt about it. When you watched him play in college, he was a gunslinger the way he played there in West Virginia, if I'm right about that. Yep. But if I could circle back about the two quarterbacks with Cooper Rush and Trey Lance. Trey Lance needs to be incorporated a little bit earlier into the game, in my opinion. If you go the first series and maybe go the second series, think about getting Trey Lance in there a little bit. Maybe, you don't, if you want to just run some packages and stuff, don't just wait till the second half and say, okay, go try and save us now. Trey Lance. You're trying to find some things that you're comfortable with doing. We call them design runs. He had a design run for 11 yards the other day, just straight snap quarterback run. Yeah. With Ezekiel Elliott leading, they blocked it up well. It's 11-yard run, some RPO stuff, the read option stuff. Make Houston have to kind of prepare or as the game goes on. Everybody always talks about halftime adjustments. The really good teams adjust series to series. They do. Make Houston have to worry about now that you've got an RPO part to their game. Now they see it a lot with their own team. They practice against it, so they should be comfortable playing that way. But don't wait till like some weird moment in the third quarter that you're going to put Trey Lance in and like, if all of a sudden the first series and Cooper Rush is inaccurate and the ball's going behind the line of scrimmage and it's 2 yards passing and three snaps, hell, get Trey Lance into the next series. Try and get something going with the running game. Try and kind of make something happen. Don't just sit there and plod on, and then it's too late. Mm-hmm. Just play really unconventionally. Just play two quarterbacks and just see if you can maybe find some offense along the way.
I'm hoping that the outcome of this last game against the Eagles, maybe it serves as, and I don't want to say release some pressure because there is a lot of pressure with people that this is their last year in their contract, but at the same time to maybe just let loose. Like, let's just try different things and just go in with the different mentality of like, it is what it is. Now let me just relax a little bit and just do things differently.
Well, this is where you have to look at it now as a coach. You can go in your office, close your door at night, and then start to call all your buddies and find out, at the Senior Bowl who's going to be hiring coaches or what staffs are going to be put together. Or hey, do you know Ben Johnson? Do you know Mike Vrabel? Do you know? Don't. That's the kind of that kind of mentality right there. That's not going to get it done. Or you could put good film out there. You could, maybe things aren't perfect right now, but you could put good film out there for somebody to look at. Like, hey, look, when they had all these injuries, look what they did. Look what these coaches came up with. Yeah. That's your calling card right there. That's your like, hey, look how these guys rallied the last 8 weeks without their starting quarterback. Look what they did with their offense. Look what they did. Maybe it's not going to be perfect. Maybe it's not going to translate into wins, but you could put tape out there to show people as a coach that your guys didn't quit. They were well prepared. They were buttoned up assignment wise, and you did a good job of making sure it's seeing the season through. A lot of coaches get hired by word of mouth, but you could also get hired by the tape you put out there. And players are the same way. Now you got to worry about the players now too. The players, I don't think they'll quit on Mike. But you got to make sure that you're trying your best and you're competitive, because what happens is the closer we get to Thanksgiving, players start to talk about the holidays and they start to talk about plans. And they start to talk about being out of the building and, hey, what are we doing after the season? Maybe we're not watching 2 or 3 extra games of film. Maybe we're like, I can do that tomorrow. And then you don't do it tomorrow. And now you're really not prepped. And now you're going out there and getting really embarrassed because you're not doing everything you need to do. You got to try and avoid that. The season appears to be lost, but make sure that you're a pro and you handle your preparation. And that's the challenge of these coaches here in this locker room now. When they get to the holidays, they don't need this thing to have a 5 or 6 game losing streak, and all of a sudden the players have completely checked out. That's the challenge right now for not only the coaches, but also for the players.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, do you have a game?
I do.
Let's get into Brian's game after the break.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. They're so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's Stay in Your Car 10-minute oil change at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. That means you won't even have time to show off your best touchdown celebration. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said that LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo. Welcome back to the second segment. This segment is brought to you by blockchain.com. Ding! Brian, take it away.
Thank you very much, Ambar. Nick, I'll start with you on this one. These are questions that I've kind of come up with, and every Tuesday, if you're new to the show, I should have probably explained what we're doing. Every Tuesday, I kind of have questions for the guys, and they do a great job of answering them. So
Sometimes.
No, all the time.
Thanks,
you guys do a great job. But let me go with you on this first one, Nick. Do you feel like you'll get a good evaluation of Jonathan Mingo with these quarterbacks?
Ooh. That's a good question. I mean, considering the
damn
fact
right,
that...
it's a good question. That's why I asked it.
I think considering
Don't
the
break
fact
your
that...
back patting yourself.
I think,
It's a good question, isn't it?
I think considering the fact that Dak Prescott will be his quarterback, I think there's a layer of that to... there's a layer of... what's the word I'm looking for? Realism, I guess you found there. However, I do think there is a way to look at him and see, okay, is he creating separation? Yeah. Is he getting out in the open field? Is he, whenever he's taking jet sweeps or anything out of the backfield, if they try to do something like that with him, is he making the right reads? Is he doing the right things? And is he going to be ready this week? I think him being ready this week would also be kind of an indicator as to how he's gotten acclimated coming into the building. Mike McCarthy did praise Mingo yesterday and saying that he's come into the building and he's attacked everything. He's attacked the playbook, and he was close to being able to go on Sunday, but he only had one full practice.
Sure.
So I expect him to be able to go into this week. But I don't think you can take a full evaluation of Mingo right now. I think you're onto something there. But I think if we're looking up in week 3 next year, and he doesn't have some sort of impact, then I think that's probably where we look at it and we can give a full evaluation.
Hey, G, you feel like you get a good evaluation of Mingo with these quarterbacks?
I feel like I could, actually.
Do you?
A little bit, because...
Expand.
Because, one, if we're talking about game type of experience and all that, if that was to happen down the road, I feel like what you were getting with Dak wasn't that much different anyways with what you're currently getting with the other backup quarterbacks in that sense. But I think with practices, you can still get evaluation of him, and like what you just mentioned, the separation, how he's handling that. Can he run the right routes? How is he learning all these routes and different schemes? And then as far as the quarterbacks and how they throw, they're here for a reason. It might not be great during actual game days, but as far as practices, we know they can throw. We've seen them have a good arm. Not always, because we've been there at training camps and things like that, so we know that as well. But I think you can get a good feel of what he is and what he could be. And even then, the things that he shows, you could be mentally like, okay, maybe he could be a little bit better with a better quarterback or not. It's a good question. I agree. But I don't think that just by not having that, it just messes up your whole evaluation on a guy like
I kind of feel like, though, to me, if he is, I think you guys are right. You could see the route running. You could see the separation. You could see they're not getting him the ball.
Yeah.
Man, they're missing, like, Tolbert running an in-breaking route or Turpin running an in-breaking route, and then the ball goes flying over their heads, or they're, running, out routes and the ball's going over their head. You're going to thinking like, okay, good route, good separation. Where's the throw?
Yeah.
Because
you could look at CD from Sunday's game.
Yeah.
He had a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Cooper just couldn't find him.
Could not find. See, that's the issues that I worry about then. And then we get into we got Mingo at receiver now. He's one of our guys, and now it goes back to that whole thing is, are you willing to draft somebody? Are you willing to draft? I know, you've talked about, Travis Hunter. Not that Mingo keeps you from drafting Travis Hunter, but maybe it keeps you from drafting somebody in the second round or the third round. All of a sudden it's like, well, did we really understand what Mingo was all about? Well, we saw him run routes. We didn't see him, and it's the whole thing over. We go into camp and we start talking about our expectations are that this guy is going to, and then you're like, now you're back to, in week 11, you're going, well, this roster's bad because. They didn't do. Those are the things that always. I just worry about the new evaluation of a player halfway through the season, and does that keep them from maybe doing something in the offseason about it?
I just feel like there's a possibility that they traded for wide receiver Trey Lance, in the sense that they gave up a 4th round pick, and he's not going to end up playing a lot next year. I hope I'm proven wrong on that, but that's the initial indication.
All right, I'm going to go with you on this one, Nick. Is it a shame that Chauncey Golston is playing this well and you'll lose him like you lost Armstrong and Fowler?
Yeah, he's playing himself into a little bit more money for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a guy they need to bring back. I think if I'm looking at this defensive end room and how it's going to shake up throughout the offseason, you probably will not be able to afford bringing Lawrence back. That's if Lawrence is still wanting to come back at that point.
Right.
More so for retirement issues, not anything that's happened in the building. But if you're looking for that big body defensive end on the outside, you got Marshawn Nealon, but you could also have Chauncey Golston as a rotational guy, and then you got Carl Lawson. I feel like if they had those 4 as like the key defensive ends, that could be a really good group. I would pay money to bring back Golston personally.
Okay, if the money turns into like Armstrong,
there's no way, right? Then yeah, you would have to go draft somebody at that point.
And it's a shame, Ambar, right? It's a shame.
It's a shame, Nick.
It's a shame.
What a shame.
Shameful.
I mean, we already know they got money issues.
Yeah.
But again, it's like with some of these moves that you've made in the contract that you gave Dak, don't ask me about cap money.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I don't know. But obviously, if it gets too way out of budget, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
But what we have seen in the past that when they do sign people in free agency, they tend to sign their own. So maybe that's something that is not completely out of the question there, but only, and we see this year after year, if the money makes sense. Otherwise, you're having to rely back again on young talent in the draft.
This reminds me a lot about the guy like the running back that you lost to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of a guy that for 4 years really just kind of I use the word here again, plodding along, just kind of plod along, and then he gets the opportunity to play, and you're kind of like, damn, maybe he should have played more.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like that maybe you developed him
for somebody else.
You know, you did. You drafted and developed, but you're not keeping the guy. Tony Pollard. I feel like we drafted and developed, and I know the money got really high for Tony Pollard, but I kind of feel like you drafted and developed Armstrong.
Yeah.
For the
1000%.
Commanders. Yeah. You draft and develop, and unfortunately you can't keep them all. But the decisions of the one, maybe you try and get ahead of it, and they've tried. They've tried to get ahead of some of these things. It just hasn't worked out in the way. But I have a feeling you've drafted and developed Golston for somebody else. Just my opinion.
Yeah, he is having a career year. I mean, he's already exceeded his sack totals.
Yeah, the 3 years prior to this, you were kind of like, nah, yeah, he's a good player, rotational backup guy. And now you're kind of like
playing out of position before this year, though. In my opinion,
there you go. There's another. Should I ask Jerry Jones the same question I asked him about Pollard, where he looked at me and said, "I'm an idiot." Basically, he goes, "So you feel like you wasted his career here?" And he goes, "No, I really don't." But yes, you did, sir.
Yeah.
You guys didn't use him like you needed to use him. And I think the same thing could probably be said about Golston. Nick, does Richards make you feel better about the swing tackle position?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome Richards is.
Awesome Richards,
just call him Richards.
Had a great game on Sunday. Honestly, better than I expected. And I know there's a lot of awesome Richards believers out there, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm a non-believer, but I didn't think he would be ready to start against a front like Philadelphia, but he did, and he played well. Arguably, I'd say probably the second best guy overall, and probably the best in pass pro from Sunday from going back and watching. Makes me feel a lot better about swing tackle specifically. I think he played well enough to where you could, if you wanted to later in the season, play some musical chairs there. You can integrate him into the lineup.
You want to play musical chairs when you move? You're going to move your left tackle, Guyton, to right tackle, and see what that's all about.
Certainly a possibility.
Ambar, Nick wants to shuffle the offensive line around, but do you feel better right now about Awesome Richards?
I mean, clearly the combination is not working, so try a different combination there. But actually, impressed with what he did. Honestly, if I'm being honest, I hope you're being honest. My opinion about him, and nothing against him, is just every time I've personally watched him, I haven't seen anything exciting from my end the times I've looked at him. So in my own personal evaluation, I do think he exceeded my expectation in what I thought he would look like going into this game. A lot better. And definitely right now it looked like an upgrade. So curious to see more of him and how he continues to play how long is Guy in now?
He's back.
He's back in full.
He's going to be back this week, most likely. Yeah. Dealing with that shoulder strain, but he should be all right.
So, I would like to see more of him.
Okay.
And it is sometimes those one-off games that you have a good game, and I would like to have more on tape to see whether or not he's a good,
I remember Chaz Green did the same thing against San Francisco, played really, really well, and then they played Atlanta, and it went south in a hurry. But, I agree with you.
Night and day difference. So it's just, I would like to see more of him.
Gotcha.
I'll say this. My one question that I would have about Awesome Richards is why did he not start against Detroit?
Yeah.
Which maybe he just wasn't ready for the left tackle position at that point. They've been working him a lot at guard, and maybe when they realized that Guyton was a little bit more banged up than they expected, hey, let's get you some tackle reps going into the bye week, and then he was ready for Philadelphia. But I think at the very least, he at least played you into a situation to where offensive tackle is not as big of a necessity in the draft as
I think they were really worried about Philadelphia's defensive tackles in this game.
That's fair.
I think they did not want to move Tyler Smith out of that with those monsters playing inside.
Yeah.
Carter and those guys. I don't think they wanted to do that. Nick, Amber, you just answered the question, right? You just did. Nick, tight ends, what's the problem?
They only have one guy. I think at this point they only have one guy, and he got banged up early in the season. I think he's still on pace yardage-wise and catch-wise for what he was last year, but he just lost his quarterback too, so that's not going to help him as far as keeping that pace. But they only have one guy, and that guy is not the best run blocker in the world.
Sure.
So they don't have a point of attack guy. Luke Schoonmaker has almost entirely taken himself out of the lineup.
He has.
And
Spanford gets a holding call down in the fumble area.
Exactly. Exactly. So they only have one guy. That's the problem, which is crazy because we looked up a year ago and we're like, hey, they got like 3.5, 4 guys here.
There's the
comfortably one guy left.
There's me sitting in Oxnard thinking, man, this tight end room might be okay. Might be, no. Amber, tight ends. What's the problem?
Spanford, he's a guy that a lot of people liked. Going into this season, let's keep an eye on him, and it just hasn't happened. Schoonmaker, I've always thought there's more to him.
I did too.
And it's just hasn't happened either. And he's currently healthy.
Yeah.
And I know in the past that has been the issue where he's dealt with different kinds of little injuries here and
stuff
there.
Like that, yeah.
But I don't understand what's going on. It's just disappointing because, again, I agree with you guys. At one point, you thought you had good depth there, and it just, you haven't seen much. And for a guy like, oh my God, I'm blanking out on his name.
John Stevens?
No, the starter.
Jake Ferguson.
I just completely
Jason
blanked it. Wouldn't that be nice? No, but with Ferguson, I know you will disagree because he's has these good moments. It just hasn't been the same. But and it's not necessarily a jab towards him because collectively everyone has been bad in the offense overall. So I think it's just more nature of the scheme and the play calls and all of that, just a combination of all of that, where I would have expected to see Ferguson be a lot more this year, contribute more, especially at that position that is a position to be known to be kind of like a safety comfort blanket to Dak Prescott. It never happened. And now with the change at quarterback, I don't know if we will see something different. Maybe, because now you're kind of asking for these quarterbacks to throw just shorter passes. Maybe the tight end kind of shines a little more here. I don't know.
Hunter Lipke is your second best tight end on this roster. That's the problem.
Hearing whispers of that too. Yeah. You're the whisper. We have time for one more. Or you got to go to break.
Go ahead.
Nick, what do you do with Kalen Carson?
Yeah, I think his confidence is gone, especially after the way that Philadelphia started that second half. Zimmer talked about it yesterday. I mean, you can tell when a guy is just being targeted over and over and over again. If it's a situation where Deron Bland cannot go again this week,
McQuamu gets a start.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to be taken away a little bit. And
I just don't think he's ready. I think he could be good. I just don't think he's ready.
I like him a lot. I know he's been targeted, but again, you've asked so much out of a rookie. And I just think I like him a lot. Mentally, it's a beatdown every time you're out there and they're just going at you over and over again. And
they're having success. So it's tough. I think the right decision would be to give him just a little break out of the game. But I still like him, and I would like to see him more. And I think next year, with a defense that has hopefully all of their starters back into the mix, I can see him thrive in a defense where he has help around him and just more time to practice and do everything that he needs to do. But mentally, I think it's, he needs a little break. If Bland doesn't go, I'd like to see a rotation of him and McQuamu.
Yeah.
McQuamu can start. Maybe it's first series, second series, third series, and then put Carson in. Maybe the game is, if some of these games are not in the balance anymore and all that, maybe you just go out and give him the experience. But obviously, as a starter, it's been a real struggle for him. So that's where you're at. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Let's go ahead and hit our second and finals break, and then we'll come back and just hit up some of the current drama that has been going around with the Dallas Cowboys.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a Pepper thing.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T connecting changes everything. And before we end the show, I wanted to kind of talk about the current thing that's happening around everywhere on social media in regards
thing or the current thing.
Current.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about no current here. You can talk about it. But
I haven't tweeted about it one time. I'm just
touchy subject. But Micah Parsons, I wanted to talk about him though, and just kind of hit on that drama and your thoughts on the whole situation. He has come out and basically said, I'm being misunderstood. You're just kind of flipping my words. What are your thoughts on what he said? Nick's face right now is pretty funny.
Do I believe that he intended to throw Mike McCarthy under the bus as bad as it came across? No, I do not believe that. I do believe that Micah Parsons does respect the only head coach he's had in his entire NFL career. I do believe that. On that same token, he was given an opportunity in that moment to pour support into his head coach that is on an expiring contract, and he instead deflected it to other people. Now, does he want to win for those other people? Absolutely. Yeah. But I think there's certain optics to that exchange that leave room to believe that, Micah could have supported his head coach just a little bit more than he did. Now, granted, Mike McCarthy did say yesterday that they had a one-on-one conversation. They cleared the air. Parsons communicated that was not his intention for how it came across, blah, blah, blah. Micah came on his podcast later yesterday and it kind of explained the same thing. I think he took more of exception to former players and former coaches looking at the first part of that quote where he was talking about, it's Mike McCarthy can go anywhere, because that's what I think TV stations took away from that quote was was the part where he was like, McCarthy can go anywhere and be fine. I never took that as the quote unquote diss there. Yes. It was the last part where he's like, those veteran guys like Zach Martin, they put more time and work in than Mike McCarthy ever did. That's where I was like, he's going to have to explain that one, because McCarthy is in this building until midnight every day. I mean, that, as someone who was in this building last year, I can attest to that. He was in here at 8 o'clock the very next morning when they lost to Green Bay. I mean, that he is in this building quite a bit. So time, I don't know about that. Work, probably. Physically, yes, absolutely. And that's eventually what Micah tried to communicate was like, no, these guys have been putting in blood, sweat, and tears on the field, which, like, as a player, you play for the guys around you. You play for the people who are on the field, yes, absolutely, and then you play for your coaches. So, like, part of me understands what Micah was trying to communicate there and being like, hey, no, like, these are the guys that are, messing up their shoulder or messing up their foot. And Zach Martin, he's battled a ton of injuries over the course of the last year. DeMarcus Lawrence dealing with Louis Frank. I think that's more so what he's talking about when he's talking about putting in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. But it just came across very poorly. Yeah. And an opportunity where he could have poured support into McCarthy.
Somewhere Aaron Rodgers is agreeing with Micah Parsons.
Oh my gosh.
That wouldn't be the first time.
He's like, hey, Micah Parsons, right.
Wouldn't be the first
one of those deals. No, just to me, I look at I have all these platforms I get to be on. I'm not the best speaker. I can understand that. But he did qualify it by saying, listen, it's above my pay grade.
He did.
He did say that. He said, it's above my pay grade, so somebody else is going to have to make the decision. He chose to give praise to guys that he feels like he spills blood with on that field.
Yeah.
That's what he chose to do.
Which I can honor that.
Now the next thing, and I know before we quit here, the next thing that
Ain't nobody quitting here.
No, quit. I mean,
end the show.
End the show. The thing now.
I ain't no quitter.
The thing that Micah Parsons now maybe needs to worry about a little bit is, does information go? Does somebody become petty about this? And now national media start to pick up on things, little whispers. Well, he's talking about my work ethic. Let me tell you about his work ethic. Things like that. All of a sudden, the Tom Pelissaros and Dan Grazianos and all those guys, Jane Slaters and all.
Tony Sopranos.
Yeah. I mean, I named like a really good law firm there.
Yeah, you did.
But now he needs to worry about whispers, and maybe it's not from Mike, but maybe it's from other coaches and stuff in the building, that defending Mike and stuff like that. So, Micah has had his share of whispers coming out of this building before, so it's kind of one of those things like, yeah, he thinks I don't work. How about him? And all of a sudden now it's now things don't look as good for Micah Parsons. That's the worry I would have if I was him.
This generated questions in the locker room. It's why McCarthy and Parsons had their one-on-one yesterday because of people talking about it in the locker room. So they got together to clear the air.
Yeah.
If someone is still interpreting this entire situation in the sense that it came across on Sunday, then you could point back to Micah not being here at OTAs, or you could point back to him not being there at voluntary workouts and things of that. So I understand where you're going.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying, because all of a sudden, if you want to question my work ethic, and you lived in this building at one time, you do too, Ambar, and you're hanging here till midnight writing a story, and you see Mike McCarthy going home, you have a point of reference. Mm-hmm. Coaches work really, really, really hard. I trust me. I've been with coaches out until 1 a.m. working on stuff. Coaches work really hard, and they get here very early in the morning. I used to pick John Gruden up at 4 a.m. to get him to work in Green Bay. They work very, very hard. But like I say, we've heard stuff from Aaron Rodgers. I was kind of making a joke, but we've heard stuff from Aaron Rodgers before. So it's your own thought, but they need to be careful, because Micah could very well be now in the line of sight of some coaches, and it might not be Mike McCarthy, but other coaches say, let me tell you what, the guy talking about our guy, come on, man, this guy doesn't do this and this and this. That's something you always have to worry about.
We'll start hearing about it if it happens.
You probably will.
We'll hear it about it everywhere. And with that, we end the show. Thank you so much to everyone who listened live and listen later on. Thank you. And how does Derek end this? For Nick Harris, Bryan Broaddus, and Ambar Garcia. And this has been The Break on DallasCowboys.com/radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?